It's time for another Game of the Month. With Game of the Month, owners of Evercade VS, VSR, EXP, EXPR and Alpha devices, plus Nexus later in the year, are able to download a new independently developed game for free every month between April and December. You can enjoy the game as much as you like while it remains available. Early next year, all this year's Game of the Month titles will be compiled together into an Evercade cartridge, along with some bonus extras. That'll be Indie Heroes Collection 5. Game of the Month for May 2026 is Inspector Waffles Early Days from Goloso Games. This outfit is led by Jan, a French developer who grew up with classic 8-bit and 16-bit games, with a particular interest in point-and-click adventures. Goloso Games has released several titles since its inception in 2017, including Antenna Dilemma, Chance's Lucky Escape, and Spike 2: The Great Emu War. Inspector Waffles Early Days is an 8-bit prequel to Inspector Waffles, a point-and-click adventure game inspired by classics of the detective genre, put out by Goloso Games in 2021. In Inspector Waffles Early Days, you take control of the feline detective as he investigates his very first cases. There are 5 cases for you and Waffles to unravel, plus a 6th if you can find the special hidden items that relate to the mysterious Mad Catter in each case. Inspector Waffles Early Days unfolds as a top-down adventure. Move Waffles around with the directional pad and examine or interact with objects and people with the B button. The A button allows you to cancel out of various menus and screens if you need to. When Waffles gets into his car to leave an area, the city map will appear. Move the cursor with the directional controls until it's over an icon representing a destination, then press the B button to drive there. As you explore each crime scene and other areas related to the case, Waffles will add various clues to his notebook. These can be used when interrogating witnesses and suspects if you spot a contradiction, or if you think they're not telling you the full story. If you need to refresh your memory on what the various clues are, you can pop open Waffles' notebook at any time with the Start button, and review what each icon represents by selecting it from the Clues menu. If Waffles has any useful items that might help the investigation, you'll find them in the Items menu. Some scenes will allow you to examine things close up. When this happens, the perspective will shift to a first-person view, and using the directional controls will allow you to move a cursor around. The cursor will change to a magnifying glass when it's over something you can examine. Press B to examine the object or piece of scenery. Sometimes you'll find valuable clues by doing this, at other times they'll simply be red herrings or background colour. Be observant, as sometimes all is not quite as it seems in these close-up scenes. Press the A button to back out of a close-up scene when you're finished investigating. When interrogating a suspect or witness, Waffles' notebook will appear. Use the cursor and B button to select each question and pay attention to the dialogue. At some point in each question, you'll need to present a clue in order to progress the interrogation. Once again, use the cursor and B button to select the appropriate clue. Waffles will tell you if you've selected the wrong clue. If you don't think you have the right clue yet, press the A button to back out of the interrogation screen until you get back to the main view of Waffles' current location. You can always come back later and resume your interrogation of a suspect or witness once you have more clues. In order to solve each case, you'll need to find all the clues and successfully complete your interrogations of all the suspects and witnesses. When you think you're ready to report in and make an arrest, speak to Pancakes, Waffles' partner, who is usually hanging out near the car. He'll then ask you a series of questions about the case, including who you think the culprit is, their motive, and any evidence you have that backs up your theory. Your possible answers are all icons from the Clues page of Waffles' notebook, all the suspects and witnesses you've previously interrogated, so be sure you're familiar with what each icon represents before reporting into Pancakes. Once you've presented your theory, Pancakes will rate your deductions, and if you've successfully solved the case, you'll be able to move on to the next one. Be sure you're ready to move on before reporting to Pancakes. If you haven't yet found the hidden Mad Catter item in the current chapter, you may want to take a moment to revisit all the locations, take a closer look around, and follow up on anything that looks interesting, even if it doesn't seem directly relevant to the current case. The hidden items are missable, so if you solve the case without having found them, you'll have to play the case through again to track them down. Think you can crack all the cases? Don't worry if you can't solve them all in time. As with all Game of the Month titles, you'll get another chance to play Inspector Waffles Early Days next year with the Indie Heroes Collection 5 cartridge. To get started with the Game of the Month program, just update your Evercade EXP, EXPR, VS, VSR or Alpha to the latest firmware version via the System menu, then navigate to the EXP, VS or Star logo on Evercade Alpha on the left side of the main menu and access it from there. Please note that save states and save games made while playing the Game of the Month version of Inspector Waffles Early Days will not carry across to the cartridge version, and vice versa. Check out the full patch notes for this update on the support page for your device on the Evercade website.